A few days later, everyone was getting used to the idea of living on the island. While there were some days that were hot, rainy, cloudy, and even windy, they still managed to keep their survival instincts up. Things were going to go well for everyone on the island, although help was taking a long time to show up to save them. However, one night where Grunkle Stan woke up to hearing some sounds. It was around 6 in the morning and it was still dark outside, even though the sun was about to rise at any moment. Grunkle Stan can hear the sound of drumming. It was coming from somewhere on the island. He got up and left the hut without waking everyone up. He took an axe to defend himself as he ventured off into the jungle. While he was walking deeper and deeper into the jungle, he could see the sky above him turning red and orange as the sun was rising. When he got into a clearing, appeared to be deep in the jungle, he could see that there was no one there. He looked around to see blood on an altar. It looked to appear some altar close to a campfire. Grunkle Stan instantly knew that this part of the jungle must be dangerous and didn't want Wendy, as well as Dipper, or anyone that he's with to venture out this far into the island. Fearing that some dangerous people or creatures were nearby, he ran off back the way he came, back to his hut towards near shore. Wendy and Dipper were awake. They saw Grunkle Stan looking worried, and they also wondered what just happened. "What happened, Grunkle Stan?" Dipper asked. "Did something happen?" Wendy asked as well. "I found a very deep and dangerous place on the other side of the island. There's most likely people on the island or creatures. I saw blood on an altar close to a campsite. I have a bad feeling that something bad lives there," Grunkle Stan said. "And I recommend that you, Wendy, Pacifica, and Mabel to never venture deep in the dark side of the island." "We won't. We trust you," Dipper said. Then Mabel and Pacifica woke up, heard the commotion from outside. "What's going on?" Pacifica asked, still half asleep. "Grunkle Stan is just warning us about the danger on the other side of the island, and warns us not to go there," Dipper replied. "What's so dangerous about this place?" Mabel asked. "I don't know, Mabel, but I have a feeling whatever's there is mostly dangerous," Grunkle Stan said to Mabel. "Anyway, we're gonna go fishing. Ready, Dips?" Wendy asked, getting on the boat they came on the island on. "You bet, Wendy. And what do you plan to do today, Grunkle Stan?" Dipper asked. "I don't know. I guess I'll find some food and stuff," Grunkle Stan said, sounding confused. "We found a barrel of rum. Grunkle Stan, Pacifica, and I brought it back here," Mabel said. Grunkle Stan saw the barrel that Pacifica tapped on, which was only a few meters from the hut. "Sounds like I'll be drinking tonight. See you later," Grunkle Stan said, as Wendy and Dipper headed off to fetch for fish. They didn't go too far away from the island, but far enough where they can catch fish for food. "Any fish will do. Hopefully no sharks come," Wendy chuckled. Then she started to fish for food. Dipper saw something inside the water, remembering that to get something for Wendy. He then took a hunting knife and dove in. While underwater, Dipper saw a school of fish surrounding him. They were friendly, and Dipper smiled at them. He then spotted what looked to be a chest of some sort. It wasn't too big, but about the size of a shoebox. Dipper lifted the chest from the sea floor, returning to the surface to see Wendy on the boat. "There you are, honey. I was wondering what you were doing down there," Wendy said, surprised to see Dipper overboard. "I found a chest, Wendy, and since I didn't want on gambling on the cruise ship, I had to get you something," Dipper said. He then handed the chest to Wendy and put it aside. Once Wendy placed the chest aside, she pulled Dipper up and out onto the boat. "What's inside this chest? It isn't too big or heavy," Wendy wondered. "Well, let's open to find out," Dipper said. Then he and Wendy both sat down on the open of the chest on the boat. When Wendy looked inside the chest, she found a necklace, made entirely out of pearls in there. "Aw, Dipper, this necklace is so beautiful. It's made out of real pearls." Wendy thanked him and she put on her necklace, which the pearls shined bright. "Since I wanted the casino on the cruise ship, I got you that as a gift," Dipper replied as he kissed Wendy. Back on shore, Pacifica was making something with an axe on the hut. Mabel walked in with Grunkle Stan to see what she was up to, hoping that Pacifica wasn't too upset about help taking too long. "What are you making, Pacifica?" Mabel asked. I'm making some hunting spears, perfect for when we come across fish and other animals. Plus, it'll make good weapons, Pacifica answered. See what I did with a few spears? I made a sharp tip on one of the sticks that I found, used vines to tie a rock on it, and when we throw it at fish or anything useful for food, it will help us defend us against any predators or bad people on the island. How did you manage to make them? Grunkle Stan asked. I thought you didn't know how. I saw someone do it on TV once. I believe it was Tarzan where I watched him make spears, Pacifica answered. Once Dipper and Wendy caught some fish, they headed back to their hut to get cooking. Once the fire was lit up by Grunkle Stan, they began to cook the fish they caught. Wendy was upstairs when she was using her hunting knife to make something out of one of her clothes. Pacifica followed Wendy upstairs to the hut to see her in Dipper's room, wondering what she was doing. Wendy, what are you doing? Pacifica asked, catching Wendy by surprise. Oh, Pacifica, I didn't expect you to come up here. What's going on? Wendy replied with a question. Just wondering what you're up to. What are you doing with that white t-shirt? Pacifica asked. I'm ripping it apart to use it as rags, Wendy answered. She then began to use a knife to rip apart her shirt. Why are you doing that to your shirt, Wendy? Pacifica asked. You aren't planning to wear it, are you? Not exactly, Pacifica. I thought of using this shirt by ripping it so we can use it like rags, like for bandages if we cut or hurt ourselves, pads for one of us is on our periods, and just for about anything useful, Wendy replied. Once Wendy's t-shirt was ripped to shreds, Wendy placed the raggings of the shirt in a box that was going to be their first aid kit. Pacifica sat down beside Wendy, wanting to know how she and Dipper were doing. Let me guess, you saw what you did on TV? Pacifica guessed. Yeah, that's how I know. My dad taught me that when I was a kid, Wendy nodded. So, Pacifica, are you still not happy about help taking longer to come? Why do you ask, Wendy? Pacifica asked. Just wondering because I know every day in the past you were upset, and I get it. You have every reason to be. Our situation right now is kind of depending on when help will come, Wendy said. On that, Pacifica paused, unsure of what to say. I'm not too upset about it anymore. In fact, we're all stressed out, scared, and even afraid. I know that feeling. All we have is each other now until help arrives. So we all have to work together, no matter how hard times are right now, Wendy said. Last night I kinda didn't sleep well. I guess it's the fact that this stress has kinda gotten into me. We all are that feeling way, Wendy. But the main thing is that we know without Grunkle Stan's survival tips or yours, there will be no hope for anyone on this island, Pacifica replied, breathing in the smell of ocean air from outside of the hut. How are you and Dipper doing as husband and wife? We've been doing good. The reason why we didn't have our honeymoon right away was because Dipper wanted to do something special, and that cruise was what we wanted to do. But when it caught on fire, it brought us to where we are now, Wendy said. Do you ever wonder why the cruise ship got caught on fire? Pacifica asked. Dipper asked me that last night, and I have no idea on how it got caught on fire, Wendy answered. I'm questioning myself who knows what caused the ship to get caught on fire. That, I'm afraid, will forever be a mystery, Pacifica sighed. Wendy, Pacifica, you two are up there? Dipper asked, peeking his head into his and Wendy's room. Yeah, we're upstairs, Dipper, Pacifica replied. Good. Grunkle Stan wanted me to tell you that lunch is ready, Dipper said, before he, Pacifica, and Wendy headed downstairs to the kitchen. As lunch was being served, everyone ate the fish that Dipper and Wendy had caught, along with some fruit that they had found. Lunch was really good as Dipper cooked it himself. He was proud of himself for making lunch for everyone, including his wife. After lunch, Wendy and Pacifica were venturing inside the jungle for some fruit, and when Wendy saw bananas on a tree, she climbed up to get the bananas with her axe. When she got to the bananas, Pacifica caught the bananas as Wendy tossed them a bunch near to her. Nice throw, Pacifica said, as Wendy climbed down from the banana tree to meet up with her friend. Thanks, Pacifica. I want to ask you something. Just don't get angry with me, though. It's nothing personal or anything, Wendy said. What is it? Pacifica asked. Well, you and Mabel didn't get quite along when you first met her. Why was that? Wendy questioned. I'm not against you or Mabel, but Mabel told me about it a few nights ago. I was confused, so I want to hear from your side of the story. Mainly about Mabel, I'm asking, since you already said about Dipper before I got married. Okay, the reason why I didn't get along with Mabel was because the way she dressed, like clothes, happy unicorns, it looked very childish, and that's kind of why I criticized her for it. Mainly bashing her. I didn't really know it was wrong at the time, but I was young back then and didn't know better, Pacifica started. Since I'm a rich girl, I kinda became popular at and off of school. When I started to hang out with friends who were rich as me, I kinda bullied people because of it. You were bullied as a kid? I know that could be effective of people that were bullied in the past, but I'm just curious, Wendy said. I kind of was as a little girl. It was all because I was in Mabel's shoes many years back. Many people made fun of me over girly things. I would cry almost there all the time because of the bullying, until one day I would cry I almost the entire time because of bullying. So I one day fought back and worked for a long time. But now I see why I didn't have any friends in the first place. But after getting to know Dipper, I started becoming nice to him, Pacifica said sadly. I knew Dipper since he was 15 and I was 15 and he and Mabel were both 12 and we got along just fine, Wendy replied, patting Pacifica on the shoulder. Ever since I started to hang out with the wrong people, I started becoming a spoiled brat over the fact that me and my family were very wealthy. Now I could see what happened. I made Mabel cry before and Dipper snapped at me for it. He called me a bully back then, but he was just trying to be a good brother. Pacifica began to have tears in her eyes. The past was hurting her. Don't cry. I'm sorry you went through a lot. Just because you and your family were very wealthy, that doesn't mean you're better than anyone, Wendy said comfortably while hugging Pacifica. Money isn't everything. What matters is that you have everyone that looks up to you. You're right, money isn't everything. I guess I have been a greedy bitch, liking money more than my friends and family, Pacifica sniffled. Did you apologize to Mabel and Dipper for that behavior in the past? Wendy asked. Dipper, yes, but I have. But for Mabel, I didn't apologize to her yet, mainly because I thought that she'd still hate me, Pacifica said sadly. Mabel wouldn't hate you for it. Her feelings were hurt when you bullied her in the past. I know she wouldn't hate you for that. She's a forgiving person at heart. I know this because I've seen her forgive people many times. Even Robbie when he talked shit about Dipper behind his back, Wendy started. She then paused for a moment. But Robbie, however, is kind of tough to forgive sometimes. He may seem creepy and weird, but he's improving his behavior he can be a better person. I never knew your ex was an asshole. Dipper told me about Robbie picking on him, not to mention that he was a jerk towards you. And sorry to sound harsh like this, but you're better off with Dipper than Robbie, Pacifica stated. I have to agree with you on that. Robbie even lied to me when Dipper confronted me about it. I took Dipper's word for it to heart because he was telling the truth, and I believed him, Wendy said. I'll apologize to Mabel tonight, and from now on I will not be a spoiled brat or always put anyone down. I'm going to redeem myself for the better, and on this island we have each other, we have to work together, Pacifica announced, drying her tears from her eyes. That's my girl. I found some vines. Want to grab some? Wendy asked, handing Pacifica a machete to cut down some vines so they can use as ropes. Sure, and I'll cook dinner tomorrow night, Pacifica said, cutting down some vines with her machete that Wendy had given her to use. Later on that night, Pacifica and Mabel were both by the campfire near the hut. Grunkle Stan was making their dinner with Wendy and Dipper's help. The two girls were all together by the fire. Mabel, I have something to say, but can you please don't hate me? Pacifica said, catching Mabel's attention. Sure, what is it? Mabel asked. I want to say that I'm sorry, Pacifica replied, before pausing for a moment. I'm sorry for being a bully to you and picking on you in the past. I didn't apologize before because I thought you'd still hate me for it. Wendy told me that you were bullied as a kid, just because you and your family were rich, Mabel said. guess that sometimes being a rich can turn people into spoiled brats. Yeah, that it can. I regret being a bitch towards you and your brother. I guess I was more focused on being popular, but when I started to put down others, I felt better than ever. But now that I regret doing so to you, I'm sorry for doing that, Pacifica sighed sadly. If you choose not to forgive me over what happened in the past, I can't say I blame you. Of course, I can forgive you, Pacifica. All we have is each other on this island now. I guess you can really say we didn't really get along at first, Mabel said, forgiving Pacifica. But now we'll put aside our differences and do what it takes till we get off this island. But however, we will no longer bully anybody. It's a deal. I'll redeem myself and do better, Pacifica replied, hugging Mabel. After Wendy, Mabel, and Dipper and Pacifica went to bed after supper, and free time that night, Grunkle Stan was drinking the rum that he got from the barrel. He was in a drunken state. He fell asleep near his bed by the hut, still feeling wasted from drinking. Early the next morning, it was around 6 a.m., and when Grunkle Stan woke up, he was still in a drunken state, walked towards the ocean. He started to swim to the other side of the island, which was a couple of feet of the ocean away from him. He swam for a long time, and soon something would happen to him that would be tragic.